Coach, a new season. Last year, you guys had a ton of injuries, COVID issues, a bunch of stuff that kind of slowed you down a little bit. But a good portion of that core is back this season. You have 4 returning starters and a mix of exciting freshmen. So I guess just to kind of start out on what you've seen from your team so far.
Well, the youth, the inexperience is the most noticeable thing in practice every day. The Paige Pipkin and Sagan Robbins injuries are such that we've got to limit their minutes. Ella Thompson has been out basically since the summer with an issue with her back that is pretty close to being resolved. So then you're putting one returner out there typically in practice. But it is a really talented group of newcomers, and the kind of the sky's the limit for them. It's the question is going to be how quickly they understand the college game and the grind that goes on. Because you think about it, most of them are coming from high school, where probably about the middle of January their season would be over minutes-wise as far as what it's going to be in college, and about that time is when it's supposed to be cranking up. So the learning curve is probably the biggest thing that we're watching, navigating, good days and bad days, but the talent, the effort, the intensity, as best as they can, is there for right now.
You scrimmaged Fred Hartman the other night, and it is a scrimmage, but it also is other people on the floor. Did you see anything about your girls that night or your players that night that you haven't seen in practice so far?
Defensively, we were better than we were a week ago. We didn't – the mistakes that we made in our first scrimmage, we didn't make as many of those in the second one. So anytime you can eliminate some mistakes, that you're going to start to get better. Offensively, the execution was better. I think everything was just better. Nothing was great, but the execution was better. The defensive effort was better. We got in a little bit better shape. So, I think whatever grade we got for the first one, we're going to be probably a half letter to a letter higher against Freed. And they were missing a couple of kids too. So, one of their best players is a post kid that wasn't there, and I wish she had been there. But it was noticeably better than the week before.
Can you speak to Paige and her ability to see everything on the floor? Everything is kind of in slow motion for her. So even though you've restricted her minutes a little bit in practice, you're probably not missing much when she then gets back on the floor.
Well, Paige is savvy. You're talking about a kid who's reinvented herself multiple times in her career. What you don't like is, because of her injuries, is that we have to eliminate some time from her practices, and then in the exhibition game, we really didn't want her playing very much. We're just trying to get her in shape, along with Sagan. But I'm anxious to watch Paige with these younger kids, and as they start getting comfortable with each other, because the better the players are around Paige, the better she's going to play. Same thing with Sagan, and that will be interesting and exciting to watch as the season progresses. Plus, their leadership is going to be key in keeping these young kids' heads on straight as the ups and downs of the season go.
We talked a few months ago about the new look of the OVC, and then we kind of got a chance to see it up close at Media Day a few weeks ago. Now that you've seen a little bit and we're closer to it, kind of talk about the league right now as you see it as we get ready to go into it. Probably the same as it always is. I think Belmont leaves, Little Rock comes in. That's not a change in historical finishing seasons. I mean, Little Rock's won multiple games in the NCAA tournament. They've been there multiple times. They're a very different team than Belmont. Extremely athletic, very physical. So that from that aspect, it's different. I think Lindenwood and Southern Indiana are both have the potential to be really good teams based on geography and money. But I don't know how close they are to kind of getting there. But the league will probably be about the same. Tech is basically got, I mean, I know they graduated with 3 or 4 kids, but they had a couple out and they're back, and they returned 2 or 3. So, but with the transfer portal now, you really don't have any idea what your league's going to be like, because you look on rosters and you've got 4, 5, 8, 10 totally new kids on each team. But I would expect the OVC to be the OVC, that if you don't show up every night, that somebody's going to beat you.
Shay was one of the league's top freshmen last year. What did she work on in the offseason to really take her game to the next level?
She's just her consistency in everything. She's worked on trying to develop a mid-range game where she can pull up from 6 to 12 feet, because she's so good at shooting the three and so good at getting to the rim. And ironically, the shots she hit the other night were mid-range, and she didn't make any getting to the rim, which is her strength. Her challenge, and it's going to be a challenge, is the way we played last year is totally different from how we're going to play this year. So essentially, she's a freshman. She has no idea and no experience in running a team the way we're going to run it this year. Now, she has experience in running a team, but not running a team the way that we're going to try to do it. So she's learning right alongside all those freshmen. Same thing with Ella. The only 2 that have a clue is Sagan and Paige. They've played at a different pace than last year, and they've seen us do stuff, so they understand. But essentially, she's a freshman like those other guys. And the thing that you love about her is her effort, and that she's going to give you everything she's got. And if that'll be contagious, her role as a point guard will flourish and grow. But right now, she's working on how to run our team at the pace with the things that we're trying to do that are different from last year, and figure all that stuff out. She'll get it figured out.
Last year, you were a team that kind of needed to hold opponents to about 40 points for you guys to be successful, is what I think you kind of strive for. So are you talking about a change in pace back to more of a fast-paced or pressing defense, and then also just trying to move the ball around like your program's been accustomed to?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be more for our fans that have seen us play for years. It's going to be, quote, more the normal that you see from us. We've typically been able to score a lot of points, and we can do that now. We love to press if we can, and we can do that now. We would love to play faster, and we can do that now. The big question is this, with so much inexperience, what are they going to latch on to as saying, oh, yeah, we're good at this? I think they're all going to look back in 2 years and go, golly, I wish we had known this when we were freshmen, because we could have been so good. But I think they're going to figure that stuff out. It's just going to be when. But the style that we play in January may be totally different from what we're doing right now, as we figure out these kids and how they fit together.
I think you have 9 newcomers. Could you kind of speak to them? You have 2 Division I transfers, a couple freshmen that have championship pedigrees. I know that's part of the rotation, the stance that you want to build your team with. Who are some newcomers that fans would want to keep an eye out for?
Well, you're going to see a lot of freshmen, and there's 5 that have stood out so far, and Anaya Brown is one from Lexington, Kentucky, who's been out with a stress fracture, but we've really overly held her out to make sure that she's going to be healthy. She's a long, lanky, can just do all kinds of stuff on both ends of the floor. Sharnice Curry-Jelks is from Jackson, played at Southside, looks kind of the same as Anaya, about the same size, a little bit bigger build, and she hasn't played in 2 years because of injuries. But you can see her every game shaking a little more rust off. And she has the ability to do things that not a lot of kids in the OVC can do. And then you've got Lexi Rubel out of Cape Girardeau, who is another, if you remember Katie Schubert that played for us, she's the closest thing that we've had to Katie. She does everything, and she does it well. Her big thing is, like Katie's going to be figuring out how to do what needs to be done for us. And then you've got 2 Arkansas girls, Josie Story, who can really shoot the ball, athletic, can score, who is trying to really up her defensive game, and she's definitely earned minutes. And then you've got Kinley McCarn, who can kind of do anything, who's a 4-time state champion, and can play like 4 different positions. So
those 5 kids have been the newcomers. You've got Diamond Cannon, who may be our best athlete, and Sydney Boykin, who's coming off an injury. But with all that from our newcomers, there's a chance there. The problem is that it's like plugging a hole in a boat. You get today. Anaya has a bad day, so you're plugging that hole, and when you plug that hole, you look over and Josie starts having a bad day, so you got to plug that one, and then Anaya's pops back open, and so that's kind of the way that it is, but they're getting better and better and better every single day.
Is that winning intangible, that winning pedigree that we were talking about a minute ago, is that an intangible that can really help a team? Because usually if they come from that kind of pedigree, they usually have pretty good coaching.
Well, I can tell you that in our history here, every banner that's up there had multiple state champions on the roster from coming from high schools. And the 2 years that there are no banners up there are 2 years that we did not have state champions. And so, so we're kind of not very intelligent coaches if we don't recruit a lot of kids that come from the programs that just produce winners. Because there's something to be said for kids that know how to win. Now, granted, at the Division I level, you have to be a certain level of athletic, or size or something. But then at the end of the day, you want to take kids that know how to win, bottom line.